Welcome to the Outer Realm with MicheleDerocher and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last few years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any type. So tonight we're welcoming back Todd Clements. You remember him we had part one with him a couple of months back from the Haunts of Mackinac Island. He's going to be this time delving a bit further into paranormal research, investigations on the island and other locations. And this is going to include the fairy investigations that he's done, to which he's had experiences with and sightings, which I thought was, kind of cool. So I'm all about that. So I wanted to send out a big thank you to everybody who tuned in this afternoon, also to Paranormal Insight. It's one of our new shows that's been here for about 6 weeks and done really well. It was a lot of fun. You can catch it on my YouTube channel as well, because it was just a lot of fun to do it. So check it out, and hopefully you guys will have a lot of fun listening to it. I certainly had a lot of fun joining Tim Sedano and doing the show. And he's every Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. So check him out. Got great guests coming. So people are chiming in. Hello, Dolly. Hello, Catherine. Hi, Mort. Saw you there today. Great to see you back. Richard, hello. So just a reminder for everyone who's in Rumble and on X, because I can't see you guys. I can see how many of you guys are listening. And please bear in mind that we are, hold on here. We can see your comments, no problem. So they will come up here on the board. As you see me flashing them through, you can definitely see me moving forward and getting these things right there. That includes you guys on Rumble, don't be shy, and you guys on X, don't be shy. So we're just waiting, of course, for our guests to come in. Remember, guys, superhighway coming down to like one lane. I will get to questions and comments. I will flash them up and so on. And we also have pictures for tonight as well. So, hey, AZ son. So Todd has sent over quite a few photographs from some of his excursions, and they're pretty cool. So we're going to put those up as well. And that's going to, allow him to talk about it. And you guys can have a look and see what your thoughts are. So also, before we even get started, again, Amelia, under the weather. I think she had what I had. And this is brutal. I'm still at the tail end of it. I might sound like a little bit croaky, but it's just part of this bug that just, oh my God, it's just relentless, just seriously relentless. So anyway, with that being said, thank you for bearing with me. I may be, hacking here and there as we move along, and hopefully not too much, but what are you going to do? Anyway, so I'm just reading comments, So for some reason, we do not have chat is disabled for the live stream. No, we are is disabled. What? That's crazy. I've got people on here right now. Let me just go have a quick look, guys. Let me have a quick look and see what's going on with this. Because this is not disabled. Okay, hold on. Going to have a look. Okay. All right. That's probably all I can think of. Is that I'm just checking out. Wayne just sent me something here. Hold on, guys. Chat disabled for live stream. Does it still show that? So if you guys can chime in. I haven't think with me. No, marked as nope. Okay, no, it's not anymore, and I don't know why that is. So try now. I have gone in and I have changed that. So we should be okay. If everybody wants to give it a try, Dolly, thank you. We should be back on track now. Definitely. Yeah, I see you guys. So must be okay. I got nothing. Are we there? Hey, everybody's coming in. Yay, Janie. Hello. Hi, Michael. Good now. Okay, good. All right, we're good. Oh my gosh. What is going on with this technology? I definitely do not put any of the shows down for kids because you never know what is going to come flying out. So definitely not for children. So anyway, okay. So I see things are definitely starting up now. Okay, everything. Yeah, we're good. We're there. And I do have to apologize. I see a lot of people on X, but it's not coming through on the chat room. So again, I apologize. Not quite sure what's going on with that, but I don't know. All I could say is, and there it is. It's just appeared. Got nothing. Anyway, so again, as we wait for our guests to come in, sorry, I'm getting more messages. I guess people are wondering. Okay. Yeah, we're good, guys. We're good. So we should be able to definitely keep forging ahead. And yeah, people, yeah, here you all are. You're all, yeah, you're good as well, right? I don't know. I have no explanation at all. This is just definitely not something that we do, but I'm glad everybody's here. Hello, Mark. Hello. Okay. So as we wait, I'll recap a little bit with Todd. So he wrote a book basically called The Haunts of Mackinac Island, and it is a phenomenal place. I have been to this location when I was young. My parents actually honeymooned at this place, and they went with friends. They just had like a crazy honeymoon, decided to go with a group of friends and had a really great time. And check, here you are. Hello. Hi, Michael. And it was so much fun. Honestly, had a blast. And it was kind of cool to be taken there as, as a family after the fact, because it's always been one of my favorite places to be. But you don't talk about how cool some of these haunted locations are. You basically had to sit back and think, well, what are the investigations like? And I've done tons of investigations, and I mean tons over a couple of decades. Todd, you're really dark. I know if you can hear me. Yeah, you're really dark. We'll see if we can bring you through. So, sometimes conditions, especially when you're outdoors, makes it a little bit tough, but sometimes it makes it that much more exciting. It's just get incredible stuff. So here we are. And are you good to go, Todd? Yeah, okay.
In the shadow.
Oh my God. See what
I'm in a car.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but hey, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean,
Creepy. I see the creepy like tree branches in the
you do.
background of the light. So.
It's just weird, but all right. I can see your glasses reflecting, so I know at least where your head is. so, so welcome back. Happy
Hey,
New
good to be
Year.
back. Good to be
Oh,
back. I wish.
yeah.
All right, I'm trying to get the sound better on my end. I can hear you. It's just trying to make it so I can hear you better.
Okay. That sounds all right. So,
Okay. I'm trying to put my phone on my steering wheel. Sorry
oh
about that.
boy. Okay, that's all right. We'll take what we can get.
And
so,
if my phone does do an overheat,
uh-huh.
I'll get back with you as quick as I can. Sometimes it does it when I do camera too long.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I know I can get chatty, which
Well,
is just what I do.
you have the link, right? So you can
Yep. Yep.
definitely make
Yeah.
your way back. So
Mhm.
it's got that whole spooky allure thing going on, which is cool. So,
The glasses are
um,
weird. I don't typically wear glasses, but I need them for reading, and my phone's close enough that I'm going to need them.
well, yeah, and it allows me to be able to tell exactly where you are besides that,
Sure.
which helps. so, um, So basically, we're going to be talking about investigations. The last time you were on, of course, we talked about, the island
Hmm.
and all of these incredible places, and we even talked about cryptids and so on. But this is the first time you're actually going to talk about really getting into different investigations, including those at the island, some of the things that you've experienced. You've sent photos.
Yep.
So, we can
Not all
definitely,
those are investigated. One was an
right,
investigation photo, or maybe two.
right. No, that's
I'll have to
cool.
see them to. Yeah, when you put them on the screen, I'll know for sure.
Yeah. No, we can we'll put them up and then you could just talk about them.
Sure.
That'll keep it, interesting. So where would you like to start? I mean, how long have you been investigating per se? Like
Um,
what got you into it?
I saw a ghost when I was 12 years old on Mackinac Island. That's what got me interested in the subject. I would say
Yeah.
my first unofficial investigation, just a bunch of teenage guys and one girl running
Yeah.
around going to haunted places that were said to be haunted. It's probably
Right.
14 or 15.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I'm just now officially north of 50. So a long time. I
Wow.
would say I did it, I mean, professionally, if that is what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah.
probably
It's a hard one.
25 years, 30 years. I don't even know how long
It's
professionally.
been a while. Well, it's
But
been a
yeah,
couple of decades for me. It's hard to pinpoint because like you say, we have so many.
sorry, the phone
That's
fell.
okay. We have so many experiences, and then you just go, technically you go exploring, and it's sort of like
Yeah.
investigating what's going on and looking for those experiences. And Mackinac Island, what's I mean, you had experiences as a young man. What's the one that
Yep.
sticks out with you the most?
Well, the first one I saw was obviously got me interested, like really interested in paranormal. That
Right.
was, what is it? Try and explain it. What is it? How did it happen? Am I
Right.
crazy? Am I sane? Have other people seen the same thing? Where have they
Mhm.
seen it here?
Yes.
That's kind of how it got started. The one that there's been a few that have really stuck out investigative wise on the island. Two times I had physical contact.
Mhm.
Those ones immediately, I'll never forget them. They just like locked in your head.
Right.
Another time we were doing a public investigation with just tourists on the island who were interested in it,
Mhm.
and we got a recording of a woman singing, and she was standing right where we were doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd mentioned it before. Okay, so we're at Mission Point in the theater. We're doing an investigation. There's a husband who's not really that interested in it. His wife dragged him on it,
It always
and
happens that way.
he's falling asleep, but he's got a K2 meter in his hand. And then all of a sudden, lights up, and he's like, "Guys, this thing's supposed to be. This thing's doing the thing you said it was going to do. If there's a ghost or
Right.
something." I
Right.
said, "Well, do you have a cell?" And I went over, "Is your cell phone on?" He goes, "No, you guys told me to turn it off." I turned it off. I was like, "Do you have any electronics on you at all?" He goes, "Just the flashlight and
Right.
this, and that's it."
Right.
So we're like, wow, I put a millimeter there. The temperature's going down where I put it, where his meter's going off, and the EMF on it's going it's going really high.
Yeah.
And there's something there. It's about the size of a person. And I'm just like, because when we do the ones with the public, we do them like sections.
Mm-hmm.
First we start is the spread out, and then we get together and talk about it, and then if everybody they get a choice. You want to spread out again, or do you want to do something as a group? Well, if they do it as a group, we get out the recorders. We'll get a spirit box SP7 or something like that, and something that where everybody interacts together. Well, we hadn't started the recording part yet, so I was just like, "We've got something here right now," and I'm like, "I got to get the recorder." I pull it. I've got it in one of my pockets. Pull it out, hit record, and there's already a woman singing right in
Wow.
front of us. And we got the recording of me telling everybody, quiet now, quiet now. I'm going to try and record and see if we hear anything. She's
Mm-hmm.
singing while I'm talking. And then
Wow.
then her singing went away, and the meters went back to zero. The temperature went back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just disappeared. It was probably might have lasted 45 seconds from the time he said something to the time it went away,
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't too far away from where he was sitting.
Yes.
Close to get over there. That one was a very memorable one. Um, I think I'd mentioned David in the last time I was on, the
Yes.
little boy. That
Mm-hmm.
one, when he touched me on the face, very gentle, but it was a little hand. Just went
Yes.
from my hairline down to the base of my neck. Just you could tell his little fingertips, and I thought it was like a spider, big spider. So I'm like going like this, like, what is this? Oh my gosh, and there was no bug, no spider. Someone
Yeah.
touched me on the face.
Ooh.
And then another time we were doing yeah, it was a public investigation. Someone was in the back of the same theater, and they're just like, it's going crazy. There was two or three people back there. All our meters are going off and everything. So I go back there, and I'm holding the meter, and I feel something like a hand, not a little hand, a full size
Right.
hand, like electric. It just feels electric. Just place
Wow.
its hand on my wrist, like
Wow.
of my upper forearm. And I'm just like, there's something touching me. Somebody put a meter near higher, like where I'm, like my forearm. And it
Mm.
went higher as it went to my forearm. You went past it, it went lower. You went to my
Mm-hmm.
hand, it went lower, but it was something right on my forearm. And I could feel it. It was a cool touch. It felt like a cool electrical something.
Right.
And then it let go and everything went back to normal. So those are
Crazy.
some, and then there's other ones where you see something and you're just like, am I really seeing this?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I
Yeah.
just, my mind's playing tricks on me? It's dark. And then you ask, do you see anything, to someone who's nearby, and you say the general direction and describe what you see, and they see it too. And you're just like, okay, yeah, this is something. There's something over there. They're describing what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the
Those
island
are
is.
fun. They can be scary sometimes. We've had shadow
Mm,
person play, which is kind of scary, but
yeah.
generally, I'm more excited than I am scared.
Right. The island tends to have, that little bit of that feel as well. I mean, it's stunning, it's beautiful, it's historic. But when night befalls onto it,
Hmm.
you realize that you're also isolated.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it has that different allure to it,
there's been a few times, I don't always recommend people do not investigate alone. And
Mhm.
it's not because of the ghost, it's because what if something goes wrong? You
Well,
fall
yeah.
down, or a staircase collapses because you're in an old building alone, or
Mhm.
there's trouble in the building and they come after you like a person. But you
Mhm.
never know. I always say go with other people. I've been on investigations where we've had a paramedic show up because somebody put their foot through a floorboard
Oh,
and
wow.
they got
Yeah.
scraped up. We had an
Mhm.
ambulance come. They treated them on the site and they were okay, but yeah, they
Mhm.
were cut, they were bleeding. So
Wow.
they were they were glad there was people with them.
Yeah, and it's not like you've got a fire truck or anything on the island, do
No.
you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
on the island we do have a full fire department. The
oh, you
one that
do? I
went
was
through the
gonna say, with these
Yeah,
historic
they have
buildings.
fire trucks. We have an ambulance. We have police cars.
Mhm.
Those are some of the only vehicles on the island, but that's
Mm.
just a matter of safety.
Mhm.
The person who put their foot through a floorboard wasn't on the island though. That
Wow.
was down near Detroit,
Right, okay. Okay.
and that building is now no longer there. They tore it down.
Wow. Yeah, that happens. I've investigated, ironically, on an island, and, it had an old lodge, and
Mhm.
this is a place where a lot of celebrities used to go to, and they used to watch pony racing, and it's on indigenous land. It was owned by the indigenous people before, and then they sold it, and it was an interesting place. It was beautiful. I always just say it was sort of like the Titanic of old lodges. It was just for its time just stunning and very creative in its architecture.
Mhm.
But, you have this huge rotunda, and you have these big staircases that would wrap around. And the floors, you'd go up and you'd see this big hole. And you're investigating, the people who owned the island and had a big golf course out there that they were built in the process of building. And they're like, okay, yeah, you can completely go in and investigate this building because you know people who know people.
Mhm.
And my gosh, like we had to light the whole place up just with huge big giant 50,000 watt
Oh yeah, I know
lights,
the big
because otherwise,
floodlights.
oh yeah, because otherwise you just would go through the
You
floor.
wouldn't see it.
Oh
And
no,
then
you
then
wouldn't.
I always when I've been in some places that are like that, and you're just like, so there's a hole in the floor. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't there be another one somewhere that hasn't collapsed yet?
Well, it's a big hole. It's like
And I don't want to fall through
you
it.
can fit a smart car through that thing,
Yeah. Well, there was. I mean, we used to do a
Like-
lot of urban exploring too, and
Yes.
we found places we probably should have never been.
Oh
We
boy.
found an abandoned chop shop for car thieves. We
Oh,
found. I mean, we found a lot of bad like things. Were like, it's a good thing we're here now, not when this was actually something else.
yes.
So
Yes. Yeah, it makes it really difficult. There sometimes just because a place looks haunted, it doesn't mean it is. It's
no, it
like
doesn't.
it's like not all cemeteries are haunted,
No.
but people gravitate to them,
Yep.
and that's why you end up doing you get a lot of places that sustain damage and such because of that too.
Very
So,
true. Yeah,
you
with
know,
cemeteries, I always tell people when you die, do you want to really hang around your body?
yeah,
You can go
exactly.
anywhere and you want to hang around your body. Oh,
Hmm.
okay. I mean,
I think
yes, cemeteries have stories, and one of the pictures I sent you is
yes.
in a cemetery.
Right. Well, we're
But
going to definitely show
yeah,
that for
yeah.
sure. I mean, do you think maybe with cemeteries, do you think it's because, I mean, sometimes there are entities that go feed off the energy of the grieving, maybe attached to the grieving.
Mhm.
And what about maybe a spirit who doesn't realize they've passed on? So they're just staying with the body because it's they're just trying to get back in.
Right. I also think sometimes it's family members
Right.
that are visiting family members,
Mm,
and they're still bound here, and the family member is somewhere else, and
hmm.
they don't even know what's going on. It could be residual. I
Right.
mean, you think of all the emotion that is spent out in a cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
crying when you lose someone.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could be something residual that's stuck in the cemetery.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes I used to do tours as well, and there was an old church there, from the early 1800s, and there were relics inside the building that indigenous people were very that were attached to. And it's like some of it was put in the walls. Sometimes when they put an addition on,
Yep.
there were bones in the walls. And eventually when they put the addition on, they're like, what is this? The modern day, they see that there's bones in the wall. They're trying to figure out where did these come from, the church
Hmm.
itself, the establishment. So they made a grave site outside the building for them, but you could go in and knock on the front doors, and you would sometimes hear drums and knocking back and indigenous speaking, so it was
Hmm.
very, very interesting.
Yeah, like they find bones all the time. Most of it goes unreported just because
Mm,
it slows down whatever they're doing. If they're building a basement or putting pipes in, they sometimes
mhm.
they just kind of disappear.
Right, right.
But yeah, the island, the rule of thumb on the island is if it's deep enough to bury someone, it's taken.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does
There's
it
been a
have
lot of burials, lots of burials. I mean, Grand Hotels Foundations, they don't have a number on how many sets of human remains they found. They're
Wow.
indigenous remains.
Wow.
Not all of them are, but it
Mm-hmm.
depends where you go. Most of them are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the fort, when it was active, they wanted better food, so they built a farm out in front of the fort, which is Marquette Park now. When
Mm-hmm.
they tilled up the ground, they found over 1,000 sets of human remains.
Oh my
They
goodness.
were all indigenous. Back then, not
Mm-hmm.
such a big deal. Probably sitting in the harbor. They
Wow.
probably just threw them in the water.
Oh, it's
Move out of the
terrible.
way. Yep.
Yeah, that's terrible. So I mean, it was nothing, I guess, from the command. Like the
Yep.
island
Yeah.
would have been like, what was the primary tribal people who inhabited the island?
Um, it was the Ojibwa
Okay.
was probably the primary. No one actually. Well, it's not true. There is a story of a tribe that did call the island home, but
Mhm.
they were wiped out. I'm not
Mm.
sure if I had mentioned the story about the original tribe, which was called the MicheleDerocher. There's no proof of them ever being on the island,
Mhm.
but one of the last chiefs of the Ojibwa,
Mhm.
or was he Ottawa? He might have been. No, he's Ojibwa. He wrote about them. He knew the story had been passed down from generation to generation, and he told the story of the MicheleDerocher, which
Mhm.
was a tribe that was a recluse tribe, and that their tribe protected them the
Mhm.
best they could, and they were on, I believe it was Manitoulin Island, is where they were
Chilling.
based.
Which
Uh,
is in Canada.
it's
Yeah,
in Canada, but
I've
it's
been many
really
times.
it's
Yeah.
not super far from Mackinac Island. It's maybe, I guess in a canoe it'd probably be half a day, maybe
Oh,
less.
that's Manitoulin, the
It's not
Manitoulin
far.
in Canada. Yeah, it seemed
It's
well.
in Lake Huron. There might
Okay.
be more than one. It's the
Yeah,
one in
yeah.
Lake
This
Huron.
one, well, this is an island. There's an island within an island.
Yeah,
Off
that's it. That's the one. I
that
think
that's
that's
I didn't
Manitoulin.
realize
We
all
have
this
one too.
time. Yeah, all this time I've been to Manitoulin because I've had so many friends who have homes there that I was that close to
You were that
Mackinac.
close to the island. You were just basically, I think
Wow.
it's, I think it's 30 miles, 40 miles over the water.
Yeah, so you just take a
It's
ferry over.
not,
It's like,
yeah, it's not really, it's farther to go by land than it
yes,
is to go by boat.
right,
And back
right.
then they would go by boat, but they would protect this tribe on Mackinac Island. They
Yes.
had very powerful enemies in the Iroquois Nation.
Hmm.
And basically they'd gone to war with the Winnebago in Wisconsin. They won,
Hmm.
the Ojibwa, and they went back to the island and were celebrating, and nobody was paying attention to Mackinac Island, and
Hmm.
the Seneca, I think it was the Seneca
Yeah.
tribe, which is part of the Iroquois Nation, came to the island and wiped out the entire tribe.
Wow.
There
The
was only
Iroquois
two
were pretty
survivors.
aggressive. They're pretty
There's only
aggressive.
Yeah, they warred with each other just like
Hmm.
we war with each other. They fought
Yeah.
for land and property and, well,
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
hunting rights, and yeah. But they wiped out
Wow.
all but two of them, and that was the only real tribe that was supposedly on the island. Like I say, there's only one account of it. There's never any other account. It was just, but it was a good account. It just
Right.
was only
But you
one
have you
person.
have so many indigenous bones and burials. Like it must have been a fair sized
It was
community.
well, they didn't live there, but they would bury their dead there. It
Oh,
was like a
crazy.
big cemetery.
Wow.
It was in a lot of the many of the local tribes. They basically, it was their
Mm.
Garden of Eden. It was where Dichi Manitou, their god, came to
Hmm.
Earth, touched the ground, and said, "Let there be man." I
Yes.
mean, there's a lot of like origin stories that are
Hmm.
tied to Mackinac Island and the tribes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's a stunning place. I remember my parents taking a photo because I think I mentioned before that
Hmm.
that they honeymooned there, and there was one area. It looked like it was a pit, and it was just all bones. And you just looked down; it was just all bones. It looked like it had been like they had colored it up, like they had. essentially made it, a part. This is historical. This is a thing, and it did talk about how
There
many
is
have
the
been
black
found.
hole that's in the fort. They found a set of human remains in that.
Oh wow.
They couldn't identify who it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's the jail cell. It's the where they keep a prisoner.
Wow.
If
Okay.
they were being really bad, they'd throw them into this hole in the ground underneath a wooden door trap.
Wow. Wow.
And they did find human remains down there when they were doing the archaeological thing. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
who it was though. Nobody knows.
Wow.
Um,
And were you
so,
able
but
to
there were
investigate that and maybe find out who it was?
the investigations we've done at the fort. That's one of the buildings we've never done
Wow.
because it was
Interesting.
always locked. They limit our access.
Mhm.
We can
Yeah.
only get in. And what amazes me is that's one of the least damageable, thievable buildings. Not that we would do anything, but
Mhm.
they don't know whether we would do.
Mm.
They know me, but they don't know anybody I bring.
Right.
Um, but that
Mm.
building really doesn't have anything anybody could take or damage very well. It's not
Mm.
one of the places with the museum pieces.
Right.
And they've let us in the places with the museum pieces, but they've never let us into the prison, which
Well,
it's small, but
I think it's important because especially when you're doing tours, there are many locations that I have represented or done
Mhm,
tours to or brought groups and have done special events,
mhm.
and they would always sort of give me carte blanche for investigating because it was part of this is part of the tour that you want to talk
Right.
about. You want fresh results, you want fresh stories, not just from your investigations, but from your guests. But when
Oh yeah, we
people,
have plenty of those.
yeah, but it keeps going. You want it to keep going because you have so many. I mean, I'm sure it's the same with you guys, but I'd have so many people return to do the tours because they had so much fun on it the first or second time.
Yep.
We used to have someone who used to come once a month to one of our
We
events.
we have to change our tour. We usually change our tour every 2 years, give or take.
Right.
Just to keep it fresh, because yeah, we have the same thing. We have people who come every year,
Hmm.
and one of their questions is it the same tour I did 2 years ago, or
Yes.
last year, or 4 years
Yes.
ago? Or it's like some of
Hmm.
the stories we keep because they're like big deal stories, but we'll
Hmm.
change a lot of the smaller stories a lot
Hmm.
often. And
Yes.
if it's a tour guide who's been doing it long enough, they know like
Hmm.
5 tour routes or something that we've done in the past.
Hmm.
We just say have at it. Just make it interesting. Use your favorite stories.
Hmm.
They can kind of do their own.
I guess that's where the newer investigations come in handy
Yep.
as well because you can get more research done and maybe get communication or have more experiences
Mhm.
to share. So I know we touched on this briefly, and I know we were going to elaborate on it a little bit more, but are there any other, like aside from, human spirits and shadow people, have you had any, cryptids or anything like that on the island?
First, we do have animals,
Yes.
but yes, we have cryptids too. We have at least two, maybe three horses, and at least one dog
Oh,
that we
spirit
have.
animals.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
One is a horse that you won't see it, but you'll hear it. It's
Yes.
out. It's way, way far away from where all the tourists are, especially at night when it does it.
Hmm.
It's near British Landing. There used to be a barn not far from what we call the Cannonball. It's like a little fast food, quick grab food place in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
All the people who ride the bike around the island, that's where you go to stop and get a fried pickle or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't far from there. There used to be a barn, and the horse would kick the barn door around sunset and sunrise because it
Mhm.
was saying, "Feed me,
Right.
time to feed me," and it would kick its door. Well, the
Hmm.
horse passed away, and they kept hearing the kick, and then
Hmm.
eventually the barn was torn down because it was falling apart,
Hmm.
and they would still hear the kick.
Wow.
It's a distinctive sound of what a horse, if you've ever heard a horse hit a kick a wood
Yes.
like gate, it
Yes.
would kick the gate with its back leg, and
Hmm.
it's loud.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I've never heard it, but I've talked to a few people who have heard that.
Hmm.
So, and then there's a dog that passed away chasing after something in the woods.
Mm.
Some say it was a rabbit. Some say it was something else, cryptid possibly, but we aren't sure. And it went off of we have bluffs on the island, and the dog didn't make the turn,
Oh
went
boy.
off the bluff. And people have said they've seen that dog running around on tennis courts,
Hmm.
not far away from where it fell.
Hmm. Oh, so what kind of cryptid stories do you guys get out there?
We have two. The first one I'll do, which is a little bit less significant, or it's not as special because last time it was seen was in the 1970s.
Hmm.
Uh, we have a Loch Ness monster of our own. It doesn't have a name. It
Hmm.
doesn't really have much description other than it was seen in the Straits of Mackinac, which is the water by the island.
Hmm.
There was people on the beach on the mainland and saw these two things with heads popping up and out of the water and undulating through the water. They were out there long enough that they got a deputy and the sheriff involved. And the sheriff deputy saw it, went and got the boat and took the boat out to where it was and couldn't find anything. Whatever it was, they couldn't find logs, they couldn't find anything floating in the water. But they said when they saw it in the description, they're like, these things were alive and they were probably 30 to 40 feet long.
Wow.
And they think there were two.
Wow. Well, you guys do have the Michigan Triangle.
Oh, yeah, we've got, the Great
Yeah.
Lakes are all attached.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you go to any store you have in Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie,
Hmm.
Ontario, you got to go through Niagara Falls. So
Oh,
there's not
wow.
too much going through that anymore. But at
No.
least for the 5 Great Lakes,
Oh,
you can get
Ontario's
from
got
lake
one.
to lake. You can
Yeah,
get lake to lake.
Ontario's got one. It's
Yep.
further east, but it's also believed that it's got a base
Yep.
underground. It's believed it's got also like when you say you've got a Nessie sort of thing,
Mhm.
it's believed that Lake Ontario also has one. So the curiosity is it the same one? Because
I
you wouldn't
think
get too
if
far from going through the locks,
I
but
think there's probably more than one. I think there's very, very few, if they're even still around in our part of the Great Lakes anyway.
yes.
Um, there's sightings that have been reported, but the most recent I've seen in my research in the Mackinac region, because that's obviously
Mhm.
where I do most of my research, it was like 1976, 77.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I mean, there's people will say they think they see something, but the water plays tricks on your eyes. I've seen it myself. You'll
Mhm.
see a wave from a distance and a reflection, and it looks like something's moving through the water, but it's really just the waves coming in at a weird angle and the sunlight hitting it.
Yeah. They're
The,
big lakes, right?
yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. They're
yeah.
inland seas. You
Yes.
can't, like, you can't see Canada from Mackinac Island across
N-
the lake. You can't even see
No.
Canada.
No,
It's too
and
far.
realistically, you should, right? Just coming in from Sioux, Michigan.
You can see it
You
once you
would
get up
think.
there because you get the St. Mary's River and
Yes.
everything's like right next to each other. You could swim to Canada, but as soon as you get down past that into Lake Huron,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
I'm not sure how far it actually is. I mean, there's Manitoulin Island, which is like 50, 40, I don't know how many miles it is.
Yes.
And then that's like far west in Canada for the
It
Lake
is.
Erie or
It
Lake
is. Yeah,
Huron.
I've traversed it going through the Georgian Bay as well, and you could
Hmm.
take the,
Oh,
you know,
it's big.
it is. It is. It's
I've
massive.
seen 22-foot waves on the lake.
I've been on all the Great Lakes.
So
They're
they've sunk
crazy.
ships.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Lake Michigan, having its triangle
Oh yeah.
also has a lot of sightings of ghost ships because
Yep.
some of these ships have disappeared within that triangle. So, do you guys ever get any sightings of that out by the island?
We've had a few. We have two ghost ships and
Mhm.
a ghost canoe.
A ghost
The
canoe. That's
ghost canoe.
very cool,
So
right?
the ships that we see, the Griffin, which is one of the most famous shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, it was the first ship with masts to go through the Great Lakes. Lake St. Clair, which is kind of a mini Great Lake, was named by the LaSalle, who was the captain of the Griffin. They named it because it was St. Clair Day. They came to this body of water and they named it Lake de la St. Clair. So,
Yeah.
Lac de St. Clair.
Yes.
So that's how it got its name. They thought they were going to die in a storm in Lake Huron. They eventually made it to Wisconsin. I believe it was Green Bay. I think it was around Green Bay is where the ship finally ended up. And they needed to pay for the ship, so they loaded the ship up with furs. They went fur trapping, and they sent a skeleton crew back to go pay for the ship with the ship. And the ship disappeared, never made it. But a
Wow.
few days after, they found pelts from animals all over the Straits of Mackinac, on Mackinac Island, Mackinac City, St. Ignace, all the cities around there. They were having pelts of animals washing up on the shoreline. So they think it went down around there, and occasionally people will say on really foggy mornings you see a mass ship coming through the straits.
Oh, crazy.
That's but it never gets to you. It'll look like it's facing you, but it disappears before. If the fog goes away, the ship goes away, and if the ship comes through the fog too much, it disappears.
Well, I've been to St. Ignace. I can't imagine a whole lot of exciting things going on there. It's pretty quiet.
No, it's and the funny thing is, it's the third oldest city in the United States.
Wow. Is it
Continuous
really?
city. Yeah, it's number one is St. Augustine, number two is Sault Ste. Marie, which is in Michigan, and St. Ignace is actually number three.
I've been
Most
to
people are like,
Michigan a
really?
few times.
You would think it would be something like New York or somewhere on the East Coast, but no, it was because the French were there before a lot of the British
Yes.
explorers came over. The French came down from Canada and they established Sault Ste. Marie. And
Yes.
then after that, they established St. Ignace.
Yes. Yeah, that's crazy. And of course, then there's the Sioux, Michigan. I used to go to concerts out there at a place called Castle Farms,
Oh,
Michigan.
yep, I know of it. I've never been. I've heard all about it, though.
Oh my God.
Heard all about it.
That's a conversation best not on
Yeah.
the air, but it's
I've heard
great.
everybody from back in the day played at Castle Farms.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
It's great. Great place. Great
yeah.
place. But yeah, well, that's very interesting. So why don't we show some pictures before we get into
Sure,
the different
sure.
types of investigations? You've got some great photos.
Yep.
So I'll put them up and you can talk about them.
Yeah,
We'll bring
so
them
when
up.
I see them, I'll know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, I'll put them up one at a time.
Sure.
Well, it's only going to let me do it one at a time anyway. So let's see if I can bring that up. So people get ready. We're going to do some photos. Okay. And here we go. All right. So there it is. This guy right here.
Okay.
Let's see
So
if I
there's
can-
two of that one. That's the
Okay.
zoomed in one. We circled them, and then the original doesn't have them circled.
Okay.
That actually happened on one of our tours,
Oh, wow.
which you don't get a whole lot from the tours, but we always tell everybody the only free souvenir you're going to get is a photo on Mackinac Island of a ghost.
Right.
So take pictures. And we took this picture on tour. Probably 25, 30 people were out on the tour. And they all got it really quick. It was there and it was gone. No one saw this man standing there with their naked eye. It was on all their cameras, but and they would take pictures afterwards and there was nothing there. It appeared for 3 or 4 frames and was gone. And nobody was there. We don't know exactly who it is, but we have a lot of roaming ghosts on Mackinac Island. It's not uncommon for a ghost to be seen in multiple locations. Some people think it's a guy who usually is seen on a bicycle, but the hat's wrong. He's wearing a fedora, it looks like. And the one that wears a top hat is riding one of the old penny farthing bicycles, the big tire in the front, little one in the back. He wears a top hat with like a coat with tails, and that doesn't look like a top hat. So I'm not sure. It looks like he's wearing a jacket. Seems like he's got the front of the jacket swung out, like he's swinging his arms in his pockets.
Yes.
But we cannot explain it. And it was there right there on the tour. It was sort of, we were there to debunk it, and there's nothing there. You can see with your own eyes, but it's on all these cameras, and these people don't know each other. So it just showed up. So I like to show that one because it's just something we got on the tour.
That is really awesome, though. That's a really interesting picture. All right,
and that is right by St. Anne's Church, between Harborview and St. Anne's Harborview Inn, which is a old house that's now a hotel, and then St. Anne's Church, which is they both have ghost stories, but nothing attached to what that would be. It's most of the ghost stories between those two places. It's a woman. It's not a man in a hat.
Yeah, I think I've got the main picture. So let me just bring it up so people can.
So it's the original without the edited circle.
Yes. So you're looking essentially. This is the church you were just talking about. We're looking right here.
Yep, that's where he is.
Wow, that's very
So
interesting.
there really wasn't anywhere anybody could run, and people were actually seeing the area while they were taking pictures, and there was nobody standing there, but that was in their pictures.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's interesting. I love getting photos like that. I should really do a show and tell some of the ones I have. My gosh, some of them are so cool. And some people, I love it when the skeptics have experience, or they get, really incredible photos because.
And they're like, oh, it's got to be this, or it's got to be that. It's lens flare. Oh, my camera strap was in the way, or.
I know. Well,
I've seen it all. I've seen it all, and I hate breaking people's hearts. Usually on the tour, we won't break their heart, but if they're serious about it, do you really want to know our opinion?
Yeah.
We'll say, yeah, you see that street light? You see that puddle on the street? Yeah, there's a reflection, and you're getting that. Hello.
I know. I think people appreciate really knowing. I would want to know. I would really want to know.
I mean, we have some people who are looking for, just something fun. Because they're on a ghost tour. And then there's the ones who mean it. No, if they mean it, they'll ask us. So that looks like there's somebody walking in the cemetery. Yes. There's nobody in the cemetery. That's one of my favorite full-bodied apparition photos I've seen anywhere. Anywhere.
So this is a total spirit. It looks pretty solid. It's
full on. I mean, it looks like a person. Most people think it's a person. Yeah. But there was nobody in. This is the post cemetery, and the funny thing about who it is, I should have given you the picture of the guy. There's a photograph of that man. It's Dr. Bailey. He was the last surgeon at Fort Mackinac before it was decommissioned back in 1887 or 97, 93. I got a lot of dates. It was late 1800s that it was decommissioned and he was done. Mm-hmm. But he buried a lot of people in that cemetery.
Wow.
Back in the day. Because it's a post cemetery, and it's the American post cemetery. Mm-hmm. He would have put people in the ground there, laid them to rest, and he was walking around in the cemetery, plain as day. If you ever see, I should have sent you a picture of him. Because when you see the picture of him, you'll say, oh my gosh, that's the same guy. He had a big white bushy beard, white long hair. He was known to wear straw hats. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the top of his head, you'll see that there's a light colored something on top of his head. Mm-hmm. And he always wore black trench coat, black pants, black shoes, black.
Oh, interesting.
So
man after my own heart.
He's just like, I saw the picture when we saw it. We're just like, it's Dr. Bailey. He's in the cemetery. Right. And if you look at him, I'm pointing to the picture.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Sorry, okay. I know I can't really point to that. But
okay.
You notice there's a wrought iron fence around the area he's walking?
Yes.
Yeah, that's padlocked. And it's not like your little safe one. It's got spikes on the tops of the rods.
Yes.
So an older gentleman in an overcoat walking through there.
In a small space like that. In a
small space. It wouldn't make any sense. He's in full stride. He's about to walk right into this gate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That in and of itself, even if you're a skeptic and you don't believe it's a ghost photo, it's still not likely that a person's going to be where he is doing what he's doing if you think it's actually a person. But there was nobody in the cemetery when the photo was taken. Mm-hmm. I wish it was taken with a high resolution, newer camera, but we took this picture probably 12 years ago.
Wow.
So cameras weren't as great as they are today. Today, we probably would have been able to make out like his eye color if he was looking the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's still pretty solid.
Oh yeah, you can still tell it's a person walking.
Yeah. Oh no, it's excellent. Yeah, it's excellent. All right.
But
Wow.
that's Post Cemetery, Dr. Bailey.
Wow. That's very, very interesting. That's a great one. Okay. All right. So hold on. I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit here.
Yeah,
All
I sent
right.
you the full photo, so.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's the full photo there, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to bring up another one. I'm just kind of putting them into sequence of
No, it's fine.
how they download it. So
They may have downloaded out of order. That's a possibility. Because
that's
some of them might have to do with cryptids.
like this guy.
That's a cryptid.
Okay. So what are we looking at here?
So if you look, you'll see like there's stacks of rocks. Thank you for zooming in on that. There's little stacks of rocks. We call them cairns.
Yes.
A lot of indigenous tribes would build them as wayfinders, memorials.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a stack of rocks. Those ones are roughly a foot and a half high. So that gives you some of the scale.
Okay.
So this was actually on a ghost hunt investigation that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down by the water and we knew about the fairies. At the time this was taken, I'd never seen one. We call them fairy lights, the fairies. They're Potawatomi. They go by a bunch of different names.
Right.
They have a long history on the island. They're well known. They've been named. But so we're doing the ghost hunt investigation near an area where there's a ghost of someone who drowned years ago. And they're known to throw rocks and move through the wood, the brush near the water. And you hear them walking on the stones. And so we're investigating that. And I just hear this woman start swearing, and she's like, "What the s? Is that? Oh, wait, hold on! I got it on my phone." And it was before she was using she wasn't using a camera. She was using like a digital camera, like not a phone camera.
Right.
And she's got it on the screen, and she shows it to me, and she's zooming in on it and everything, and she's just like, yes, 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 yes. It was so fast. It was so fast. I can't believe I got a picture of this thing. And you can see how fast it's actually moving really fast in the picture.
Wow.
There are these little lights. That's our best known cryptid is the fairy lights. I've seen them it's 3 times until last year, and now 4 times. I've seen them 4 times now.
Okay.
We actually did a fairy investigation, which
Well,
we
tell us
never
about
did before.
that. Yeah.
So it was like a ghost hunt, but different. It wasn't so much about technology. It was about losing technology and
Right.
kind of being in the moment.
Right.
And I've been reading all kinds of books on it, and it's really hard to do it because there's so much mythology in it and so many fairy tales, so to speak,
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
truth from the fiction, you really have to tear it apart to find out. And you
Right.
find out what is the truth and what is the fiction and what is the story you tell your kids to keep them from getting out of bed at night versus the story that is actually true, something they actually found.
Yes. So what kind of experiences did you have? I've had people send me fairy photos. Very hard to, I
They're
mean,
hard to photograph.
well, they are, and it's hard when you get them because sometimes they just look like little
Blurs of
light
light.
anomalies.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Now, a lot of
yes.
people say, oh, orbs are no, orb, that's not an orb. Orb is, well, as you know, it's usually water vapor or dust or
It
particles in
can
the
be.
air or
It
bugs.
can be. Yeah,
Can be. But
yeah.
these, you can tell.
You
They are
see the little wings. They look like little crosses almost.
and they're self-illuminated. They light up. They aren't dark. They actually have a color and a glow to them. And I still remember the first time I saw one. I was walking home from work. It was after dark, and there wasn't anybody around. And I'm walking by this huge garden, and well, I see a light in the garden. I thought it was a flashlight, and then it came at me, and it came at me at high speeds, and it was about the size of maybe a medicine ball, which is, I'm old. It's bigger than a basketball, but a medicine ball size, and it flew in front of me, maybe 4 feet in front of my face, probably going 90 miles an hour, and it just went out over the water, off the bluff, and just kept going till I couldn't see it anymore. It just was too far away. And there's no birds, there's no bugs, there's nothing that big. Outside of a UFO, which I don't think it was UFO.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
fairy light, and I'd heard the stories from other people I knew on the island of what they look like, and they said, "Oh, you shove a firecracker in a cotton ball and light it, and when it goes off, that's what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like fuzzy explosion, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's just a solid explosion.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah. It is interesting. I mean, I think, I mean, there's so many places that
mm,
I've been to where they put little fairy houses up or fairy doors
yep,
because there's a lot of stories that circulate around them, and you don't always expect to see something. But I've had some people say, because I've done tours where allegedly they have had, fairies in there.
mm,
And the one that sticks out for me, and I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like this, that was sort of a first for me, but there was a tree there, and there was always a lot of activity around this tree. And one night, the whole thing lit up like little white Christmas lights.
mm-hmm.
And we were probably between 40 and 50 people on this tour, and people got photographs. And I'm a tour guide. I'm not there with a camera.
Right, right,
I'm there to give the tour. So I'm
yep.
like, gosh, please tell me somebody got pictures of this. And can you send pictures? Nobody sent pictures yet.
I know they never do. It's when you get the best
No.
thing you could ever imagine. They've got
Oh,
the pictures, but they don't
yeah.
send them. We
No.
have so many of those.
Oh my gosh, it's frustrating. Sometimes people do, but I had, in all the years of doing the tour, I had never seen this tree light up like that. It's like it was covered in little white lights and it just sort of sparkled a little bit. And people were just surrounding this tree in disbelief. And then they all just disappeared. And people checked for, gotta be Christmas lights or something in here. There was nothing. It was just like a big shrub, but big, a
Oh,
big one.
sure, sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen them twice without anybody with me,
Right.
which kind of stinks because you're crazy. You see lights, great,
Yeah.
but when you have other people with you, like you had on the tour, you saw that, and you all saw that, and I
We all
saw
saw
that.
it.
So
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I
Yeah.
know that you saw it too.
You saw it, I saw it, we saw
Yep.
it. I
And it
know.
wasn't until I saw it with other people that I was like, see, I mean, I knew I wasn't crazy, but I was just like, see, I told you people I'm not crazy. Fairies are real. And because everybody thinks, oh, fairies. I'm like, that's just the easiest thing to call them. There's other names,
Well,
but
sure.
fairy is basically everybody thinks of Tinkerbell, little light up little thing. They don't necessarily, what I've seen doesn't exactly look like Tinkerbell, but
No. No, sometimes it
they're
could be
balls of light.
full size, some of these things can be full size and aggressive.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when we did a fairy investigation last year.
Mhm.
So it was last year because it's 2025 now. Um,
Yes.
so we did a fairy investigation. We'd never done fairy investigation before,
Mhm.
but I knew a lot of what you need to know to do a proper fairy investigation. You needed something to draw them out, something to
Mhm.
keep them away,
Mhm.
and you had to have the right mindset. The right mindset was the hardest part because most people we went with were not children. There were no children with us, but the
Mhm.
way to keep them so they don't feel threatened is you have to approach them with a childlike mental state.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I always tell everybody, think of how it was to see a Christmas tree with Christmas presents, knowing you were
Mhm.
going to get presents or something. Think of something innocent, something fun, something you would have done as a child, and
Mhm.
stay in that place when we go look.
Mhm.
You got to stay in that mental state because then they don't see you as a threat. They don't see children as a threat as much as adults.
Mhm.
So we
Right.
had, and then we brought honey. We had raw wildflower honey. We had raw milk from a cow from that morning. It was actually raw milk,
So they like
which
that.
is, yep. We had mirrors and shiny rocks and glitter, and they like things that are pretty and glamorous. That's one of the things
They're
that
like
draws them
shiny
in.
things, they're like
Shiny
crows.
things.
Yeah.
We had made little bowls out of birch wood because it's a clean wood, and
Mhm.
we put the milk in the birch bowls, some of them, and some of them we put honey in them. And we went to the near Arch Rock, and there's a staircase, and we all went up on the staircase, and we
Mhm.
put up all these little things on the railings of the staircase.
Mhm.
I'd say there was probably 12 of us, maybe 10, 12 people, and we spread out up
Mhm.
on the staircase. And it's
Mhm.
like everyone childlike mind. We brought the things to lure us. Everybody had iron pendants behind their head,
Mhm.
hanging in under their clothes, be on their back. In case something did get bad, iron keeps them away, and you just pull it out, throw it in front of you, and it would scare them off.
Wow.
So we were sitting there, and everybody kept thinking they were seeing lights, like little pin dot lights in the woods, because this is completely wooded. It's on the side of a bluff. It's a staircase,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very long staircase. It's over 100 steps.
Wow.
And everybody keeps thinking they're seeing these little pin lights in the darkness in the forest. And there's not many people around on the island. And we're in an area that no one goes at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, somebody notices something that was sitting maybe 2 steps up from me. And she goes, anyone else seeing something? And I was noticing it too, but I didn't say anything. I was just starting to notice on the railing where we put all the milk and the honey, there was something moving. And 2 other people that were sitting nearby said, yeah, I see it too. And then another person who was sitting higher up and said, yeah, I see something moving on the railing. And we're just all looking at it and staring at this thing. It looked literally like a stick figure. The size, maybe that
Wow.
tall.
Like a pixie size.
Yeah, it was tiny. It was tiny. But
Yeah.
it didn't, no wings, no color to it. You couldn't really see the head that well, but you could see its like sticky arms and sticky body and sticky legs. Neat
Crazy.
legs were moving, like you could see it actually like moving
Mm-hmm.
around, and it was doing things with its arms, but you couldn't see hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going down to the bowl of milk and honey. It was going down to that. And then somebody heard us talking about it, and a flashlight went whoosh, straight down, and
Oh.
it was gone. It was gone faster than the flashlight hit it. It was just gone. It knew it was coming. It knew something was coming. Or saw somebody with a flashlight start coming its direction, and it was gone. And that was but 5 of us saw it. We saw something,
Yes.
and the lure to get them out worked. So I still,
Wow.
in my head, I'm just like, are you saying? I'm like, yeah, I know I saw it and they saw it too. Because it's
Yes.
just kind of one of those things you just like, it feels surreal. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to happen, but it is.
It is.
It's the same thing with ghosts, but when you're doing it with
Yeah,
something, you get used to the ghost thing,
you
kind of.
do. Yeah.
But this is something that's not
Yeah.
ghostly. It's more like a living, breathing creature that we don't know exists. And what is
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I tend to get a little bit not, it's like there's that part of me I would love to see them, but then
Mhm.
there's that part where they can be fairly mischievous. Like, have
Yep.
you ever had one follow you home? Like, where you get like a lot
No,
of
I
weird
do not.
things happening to you afterwards?
I always make sure to do things. There's ways to keep them from following you. I always have iron in a pocket.
Yes.
I have iron somewhere on me if I'm going looking for them. Actually, whenever I go on the island, because it's well known the island has them.
Yeah.
Mackinac Island was nicknamed the Fairy Isle at one time.
That's
So
crazy. I
there's
didn't know
something
that.
to it. And
Yeah.
there was a picture I sent you that has like a figure with an arch, like a
Okay.
rock formation.
Okay. I'm gonna
It's
find it.
gone. Yeah, it's not there anymore, that arch. It got torn down when they paved the road around the island,
Oh,
but it was known as
okay.
Fairies Arch.
I've got it. So I'm gonna put it up. It's like very
Yep.
foresty type,
Yep.
right? Okay, one second. Let's put this one up. Let's present that, share screen. And it's not there. So what happened to this arch? It looks like it's this beautiful, there we are. This is the one,
Yep.
yeah?
Yep,
Okay.
that's it. So it is known as Fairies Arch, and it was actually pretty close to where we had the whole experience with the little fairy thing on the railing.
Yes.
So it was one of the arches on the island. There's not very many of them.
Mm.
Arch Rock is the best known. It's the one in all the pictures. This one was sort of between Arch Rock and Mission Point Resort.
Mhm.
And there's 2 stories as to how it was taken out. One, Mission Point Resort, they were building the structures and they dynamited some of the bluffs
Oh boy.
to build further off the water so they could go
Mhm.
further back. And
Mhm.
there's the story that it collapsed when they did that. The other story is they put a road around Mackinac Island so you can
Yes.
go up, and they needed more rock, so they
Yeah.
dynamited some of the bluffs, and oops, we destroyed that arch. It
Oh
came down
wow.
with the bluff. So it's not
What a
there
shame.
anymore, but and it's very small compared to the main arch rock. So
Mm-hmm.
they were like, it's not that significant. We have the big one. This is just a little one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in the area where the fairy lights tend to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's magnificent.
Yep.
Um, a question. I mean, I've always the question. Why does iron keep them away? I mean,
Yep.
a lot of ancient people believe that iron kept a lot of things away. That's why they would have
There
horseshoes and
is
such over their
there's yep.
doorways. And
There's a reason. So iron. Now this is me going into the whole going way back into
yeah,
fairy
let's
lore. You have to go back into fairy lore back
yeah.
in like hundreds of years and figure out
Mm-hmm.
why.
Mm-hmm.
So iron kept them away. Most people think of it as a metal.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see it as a metal.
Mm-hmm.
They see it as, what do you make a sword out of back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
Iron. What's an axe head? Iron. What's an arrowhead?
Mm-hmm.
Iron. What's a pike or a spear? Iron,
So it's a
iron, iron.
weapon.
It's a weapon. They didn't
Yes.
see the weapon. They saw
Yes.
what it was made out of.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see the material, they think the material is a weapon. So
Mm-hmm.
somehow in their head it crisscrossed, and they don't see a weapon. They see iron as a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they see it, they think it's going to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what it's shaped like. It's just the mineral, the element of iron
Mm-hmm.
is a weapon. So when you pull out the iron,
Mm-hmm.
they think you're pulling out basically a weapon, and you're going to hurt them if they come closer, and that's when they usually back off.
Mm-hmm. It's fun because even through spirit lore, our manor house had a lot of like iron spikes in it going back to the
Mhm.
1800s, and we've got all kinds of them, and just put them around certain places, and it's pretty foolproof. It really does
Well, the
work.
funny thing is the whole story behind the legend of horseshoes.
Yes,
It's a
at
fairy
the front
tale.
doors. It's,
Yeah,
it
it's to
is.
keep fairies from just bothering you and your home, and
Yes.
you're supposed
Mm,
to put the horseshoe. Well, we thought it was, it's the horseshoe. It's lucky. They were
mhm.
mostly made of iron, and the
Yes.
iron kept them away. It wasn't the horseshoe.
No, that's it. No, exactly. I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. So I encountered beings that had wings and made a bell-like sound when it flew. It was mostly translucent, about 10 inches tall. Is that a fairy or something else? Wow,
Well,
very, very
yeah,
cool.
fairy's a very general term. It's kind of like the fae, which
Hmm.
would include fairies, elves, goblins, leprechauns,
Hmm.
gnomes. There's just so many different things that are
Gnomes.
kind of in it. But fairy, I think of fairy is the little thing with
Yes.
that lights up and flickers around.
Hmm.
But the term fairy has to do with so many other things because it's just the fae.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
basically old
Mm.
world cryptid, I guess you could call it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot, and you get back into the whole folklore of
Oh, I
that.
know.
It's
Yep.
fascinating. But I mean, even there are really old cultures that still believe in all that. I
Oh yeah,
think
in
you go
Europe
back
it's
to,
still they still do in Europe
oh,
in some areas.
you look in, I think it was Norway, one of the Scandinavian countries, where they were putting in a highway, and they were going to take down this big giant old tree, and gnomes apparently wreaked havoc on
I
these
know.
people.
Yep.
It was in their newspaper. I actually found a copy of the article at the time. And what they had decided to do to appease these gnomes is they put the highway around the tree. And then everything stopped. I was just
I've
kind
heard. I haven't
of
seen a
crazy.
news article or anything, but I have heard about the story of the tree that they built the highway around. I didn't know it had anything to do with fairy lore, but I've
It
heard
was
of it.
gnomes. I
Okay.
know. Yeah, there was a newspaper article about it at that time, and they had discussed this like they were being sabotaged. It was just stuff
But
going
they don't.
on.
The funny thing is most people don't want to admit it,
No, but the
but
government, like
it's
they're
happening.
big into it. They understand it,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. They know there's
So,
something out there that we don't understand,
I know.
And they're just like, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing, really.
Oh, I
It was
know.
the weather. It
Sure.
was teenagers. They were the ones who flipped over a crane.
Yeah, while everybody was there.
Yeah.
I think we're getting back to the iron. Does that only work for fairies? I found it's worked for spirits as well, but what do
It
you
works
think?
for most things. It's the fairy one. It was just I came across it in some old books about warding off fairies from causing mischief in your life
Hmm.
and following you. Iron was one of the big ones. Wearing your clothes backwards when you walk
Yes,
away.
and walking backwards and
Yep.
stuff too to
Walking
make it.
backwards.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds like you don't want you're never supposed to look one in the eye because
Hmm.
if you look them in the eye, they kind of put you into a trance and they'll
Mm.
mess with you. They may kidnap you.
But
Um,
they also feel compelled to count. So people say if you
yeah.
throw down, let's say like rice, for example, or
Yep.
pebbles like sand, they've got to count every one, which distracts them. Is that
You,
right?
that's why we carry what I carry is it's a little vial of iron pellets,
Oh,
and there's
yeah.
probably 1,000 pellets in this vial.
See,
So if it
and
got
it's
bad,
iron. They're not
I
going to
just
want to
pull the
count
top
that at
off and
all.
just throw some in the air, and they're like, if they aren't going to run from it, they're going to at least have to count it.
That's
But
nuts. Oh my God.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, if you think of it, there's a lot of fairy tales people know that are based like Rumpelstiltskin and
Yes.
just different. There's different stories that are based on kind of the real fairy stories versus the ones that people made up, and
Hmm.
then the two are together. And
Hmm.
sometimes there's a little bit of truth in a fairy tale.
Hmm. I don't know. So, how do you have you had experiences out there with other type of fae, like let's say gnomes, or
Um, not
as a
really.
personal question,
No.
gnomes on my
Um,
favorite island? That would be
so
terrible.
fairies are the fairy lights in the sea creature that was seen in the 70s. I didn't see that with myself,
Hmm.
but the only thing I've seen is the fairies. But and I've seen ghosts and things, shadow figures.
Hmm.
There are supposed to be Native American elementals on the island, and I don't want to see them. I don't want to have an experience with them because
Mm.
I've heard they don't always go really well.
Mm.
They're aggressive. They'll
There
chase you.
can be, sure, but
Um,
they're also protective of their space too. So
yeah,
if you do an offering,
I
that
just
you,
try to avoid them.
mm,
Generally, the one that I know of where it is on a rifle range on the island. It's the old
mm,
Fort Rifle Range. It
mm,
doesn't like people. I went out there once with a Native American shaman, and he was just like, "Yeah, it doesn't want people here. It doesn't
mm,
want anyone here. It doesn't want anyone on the island. It want this island. It's theirs,
mm-hmm,
and it doesn't want anything around them. And everything around the area that it hangs out in this forested area near the rifle range,
mm-hmm.
everything's dead. The grass is dead. There's no bugs. There's trees are all dead. Everything's just dead.
It's crazy.
So
Yeah, that's crazy. I
yeah,
mean, if you think about it, and if so many people were buried there, then you had the fort, you had, war. There's
hmm
a lot of energy there building on top of burial grounds, especially indigenous burial grounds to start
yep,
with, isn't never a good idea. That's going to get you some bad juju for sure,
yep.
you know.
I mean, the island has French burial grounds, British American, and Native American Inuit. Has burial grounds of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. They've even
Yeah.
found walrus bones on the island. They find everything.
You're kidding, really.
Yeah, they found a walrus skull back, I think it was in the late 1950s, early 1960s.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, yeah, I guess that was brought from the north.
Yeah, ice age.
Really?
It was probably during the last ice age. It probably just was sitting on the ice and dropped down under when the glaciers receded
Mm.
and on up on the island.
Well, I mean, Lake Michigan, pre-Ice Age, has a Stonehenge
Yep.
underwater along next to this big boulder that has a petroglyph of a mastodon right beside it.
That
So,
we have no idea the history of where we live.
mhm,
At least
it's
not
fascinating.
the ancient history. I mean, less than a mile from my house, they found a mastodon skeleton, a whole full skeleton. It's in a museum.
Wow.
It was right near my house. So
Well, see, but they would have that. I mean, that was, North America would have stuff like that. But there's
mhm.
also a lot of people aren't aware even that you had the Aztecs were far north.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
They came way up north.
yep,
There are, there are petroglyphs, like the drawings of these people up there, that have made it pretty far north. You expect them down near Utah, Ohio, up and along,
right.
but to think that they made it up more north is very fascinating. So there's a lot out there. That's just really, really cool. Um, so okay, so no experiences, nothing, no gnomes, no gnomes
No,
on my favorite
I have a
island.
friend
No,
who's had some experiences with them,
right.
and he said it's
That's
very
good.
difficult to get. It's very difficult to get them to show themselves.
That's
Basically, what they
okay
said.
with me. I'm not a big gnome fan. I just find them mischievous,
Yeah,
but yet they tend to be very helpful. People are like, why don't you like gnomes? It's not that I don't like them. There's just something about them. Ever
they
since I
seem
saw this,
grumpy.
yeah, well, that too. But ever since I saw this video, I think it was from Argentina or Chile, someplace down that way. And there's this group of people and they captured this thing sidestepping across the street and it just stops and looks at you. And it was just like, God. So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
from what I've heard of gnomes, they're not the best looking things in the world.
Well, it's not even so much that, but they just look like they're up to something. And I really shouldn't say that. Maybe I'm just being judgmental.
Yeah, we
Okay,
never
I'm
know.
being judgmental.
We are.
But I don't know. But elementals, elementals have intrigued me. There's definitely something intriguing about them, but they're still, earth spirits in
Yep.
one form or another. I mean, I've encountered them, worked around them. I've had people say, when you're helping people through investigations and then you realize that they're elementals on the property because, let's say there's back of the house is loaded with a big forest, they will come tearing through the house. They will definitely cause some mischief, but they can be appeased. And a lot of shaman have just done fruit offerings, not even so much tobacco offerings, but some have, but definitely fruit offerings or planting things like giving back. I
Yep.
think they're maybe
Yep.
so accustomed to having things taken from the land and having the
That's
land
something given back.
scarred. Yes. Yes. So
So
you have to give back.
we were doing a ghost hunt, a paranormal investigation at one of the forts on the island. It's not the main fort; it's like a secondary fort.
Right.
There's not much to it. Now they've recreated and rebuilt the fort and the wood's all back, but it used to just be like a mounded hill.
Mm-hmm.
It was because the original fort burned down. So we were sitting there and we were doing an investigation because there's allegedly 3 soldiers that haunt the old fort. That, so we're sitting there doing our investigation, doing questions and this and that, and we're not getting much. And then we were with a Native American shaman who was with us, and he pulls a satchel from around his neck, and it's got like spices, herbs, like different. I didn't even know what he had in there, but he took it and he put it down next to our audio recorder, and he put his hands like that and backed off, and he said, just sit here for a moment. And we sat there and we got an EVP. I might have mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. It was in Ojibwa, and it said miigwech, which means respect, thank you, appreciation.
Wow.
So like we were saying, if sometimes you just have to be nice to get something to be nice back. So
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, that's true. And the indigenous would work with elementals. They knew how to work with them, how to appease them, because they respected the planet.
right.
They expected the earth. They expected the surroundings.
They knew if you took, you had to give, and
Yes.
if you gave, you could take. You had to. It was a give and take.
Yeah, it's true. And I think when you are infringing on their space with building and are what we deem to be progress, we're really taking away a lot of their environment, and that doesn't help either. I think people don't realize it's one thing they think, oh, we're just infringing on, you know, the animals who live in the area,
Hmm.
but you don't realize that sometimes there are other things there as well that you need to be really mindful of. I know that. Have you ever been to upstate New York to a place called Lilydale? Have you ever been up there?
I've heard of it. I've
Big,
never been to it, but I've heard about it.
huge spiritual community,
Yep.
probably the largest, said to be the largest spiritual community this side of the planet.
Hmm.
And they have a forest there. They own like hundreds of acres, and the whole thing is catered to the fairies that live in this area. And they have fairy houses, fairy doors within the trees, and you walk down through these paths and you just know that you're always being watched. It's very, very interesting. It's something like that was my first experience of really being in an environment that was built to sustain them, to
Right.
cater to them. It was really interesting. I highly recommend it. Anybody goes there.
I've seen pictures. I've gone on Google Maps to see what it kind of looks like and
Yeah.
seen the pictures, but I want to see it. But I also heard that there's only certain times of the year that visitors can come, and I think it's sort of
Um,
like you have to have
no,
special permission. Maybe I could be
no.
wrong about that.
Well, I have friends who live there.
Okay.
But no, I mean, the summer obviously is when they're the busiest because
Right.
this is when they have a lot of programs and special events and guests, and a lot of their mediums come in, and in the winter they leave. But there are people who live there all the time. It's a
Okay.
community. But if you're looking, you can't. Yeah, I mean, you can't just
Just
walk.
walk in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna look
No,
around."
no, no. But they do have mediums that are there year round. But it's like anything. It's upstate New York. So
Right.
there's snow. There's a lot of
There's
snow. You're not
yeah.
going to
There's
get very far. But through the summer months, you most certainly can come
yeah.
in, and
Get around.
and people come from all over the world
Okay.
to see this
I'll have
place.
to check it out eventually.
Well,
Put it
it's
in my
got great
to-do list.
history. Abraham Lincoln and his wife used to go. Harry Houdini did everything he could to debunk them. They had incredible, incredible mediums going back, at least a good couple of 100+ years. The Fox sisters who started the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing. Um,
the foxes.
oh my God, yeah. It's very interesting history, and you really do, like Teresa say, you really do go back in time. It's left very, very, let's say it's not overly modern,
Right.
and it's really fascinating place to be. It's where a lot of mediums go to decompress because
Okay.
it has that kind of a feel to it.
The peaceful,
It
yeah,
is. It
retreat.
is. Yeah, I've been several times. I've made friends there, and it's just a whole the way the community lives is just quite different. It's quite different. It's just, you have to go to really experience it. It's really phenomenal. I highly
Trying to
recommend
think
it.
the closest I've probably ever been to something like that would
True.
probably be the Upper Peninsula, Keweenaw Peninsula area,
Mhm.
but it's very sparsely populated. Very
Right.
sparsely populated.
Yeah. It's different to see
Very
all of
raw.
these, but
I don't know how to explain it.
yeah, but I dig that. I really like that. I love visiting. When I visit, or I've visited Lilydale off season, it's definitely a different experience than when you go during the summer months and you have like tens or hundreds, thousands of people that go through this place through the summertime.
Hmm.
It's incredible. Like there's no room to walk. There's that many people who take advantage of coming here, and they
I
have a
think I
really
know.
big
I'm
campground
confused.
too,
I
which
know
is
what I'm
cool.
confusing it with. I figured it out. I'm
Oh
confusing it with Huron Mountain Club, which is not the same thing.
no,
It's an old growth forest in the UP that you're not allowed to go to unless your family's been members
oh
for like 100
crazy,
years. And it's like
yeah,
thousands of acres of untouched forest, and there's old growth forests, and
yes.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
That would be
Not
very
the other
cool.
one.
That would be very cool. Kazan says, in Irish mythology, they're mental about avoiding the fairies. They're considered very mischievous. Oh, yes.
They got leprechauns. They're different.
I know. Oh,
No,
yeah.
yeah. The thing is they're well known as mischievous, and there's a term we call them on the island. Um, it's Potawata Nini, but it's pronounced many different ways, but it's
Mm,
just the way that rolls off my tongue is Potawata Nini.
yes.
And what they said it loosely translate to, well, is little mischievous people or little mischievous dancing people.
Right.
So yeah,
Wow.
mischief is in the name.
So, yeah, I guess as that's what would be considered the little people in
Hmm.
the North American native folklore
Yeah,
would be these guys.
it's either those or there could be another type of humanoid. They just
Right.
found them somewhere. I can't remember where it was. It's in
Mm.
Asia. And they
Like
think
little,
they might still be alive.
oh,
They still think there might be a small population of them somewhere.
that's
But
crazy.
they're about like
Yeah.
3 feet, 3 feet tall people.
Like hobbits.
Yeah, they're like that's what they.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
hobbits.
That's it. Craziness right
But they
there.
found them. They had tools. They lived in like cavern areas, caves, and
Yeah.
come out but they found all these things. They found their bones, found their tools, found all these things in a jungle somewhere in Asia.
That is
So and they
crazy.
said that they weren't. I think they tried to carbon date something, and it was only a few hundred years.
Mm,
So they said there is a possibility they still exist somewhere. It's a big world.
fascinating.
We just haven't found them.
Well, we're going to hold that thought real
Sure.
quick and we're going to do a quick sponsor and station ID. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, of course, you're listening to The Outer Realm. Our special guest tonight is Todd Clements from the Haunts of Mackinac. And we are talking about paranormally researching and investigating not just Mackinac Island, but other locations that Todd has been to. And we're currently talking about fairy experiences and his investigations of these incredible little mischievous beings. So tune in because we still have probably about 20-25 minutes to go on this. So big thank you also to Folgers Coffee, who sponsor every show and have for the last probably 5 years. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Sick the Sonic Surgeon, and Steve McGinnis. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we are streaming live on United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio, 105.3 FM in the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. You can find us tonight on Roku TV, Rumble, X, 3 of our YouTube channels. We are on 2 Facebook channels and still going strong. So you pretty much can find us anywhere. And of course, the archives will be everywhere after that. So thank you guys. So we've talked about little people.
Mm-hmm.
How about giants?
Got
Because
those two.
right, that's really big in
That
in
one,
indigenous cultures as well. So
I think that one is easier to prove
Mhm.
if the powers that be would let it be proven.
That's a big one.
Yeah, because the island has the old histories of the island, Native American tales. The giants roamed the land before we did, and the Geechee Manitou said it's time for man to show up. You guys got to go, and if you don't go, I'm going to turn you to stone. And all the giant formations on the island were somehow attached to a giant story. One was a wigwam, and one was like a kitchen, and there's just so many different formations. And the arch rock is a giant bow shooting
Wow.
an arrow at the heavens, and it's turned to stone. Um,
Wow.
so there's all these different stories that are attached to giants on the island. There's a story that the last celebration of the giants was witnessed by human eyes on the island, and their
Hmm.
clothes were made from feathers and butterfly wings and all these iridescent colored patterns. All in, they had bottles of wine that were huge, and they threw a bottle of wine at a guy that was watching them, and he got drunk with them. This is a story
Mhm.
from the island. Got drunk with him, woke up the next morning, and had wine bottles around him that were normal size,
Mhm.
and he was passed out drunk on the grass where he said he had this huge party with the Giants.
Wow.
It's
That's crazy.
But that was the last story of the Giants on the island, was this one. And the thing is if you look at the timeline where he was when it happened, you're looking 1830s, 1840s. And I have a lot of trouble believing that there wouldn't be a lot more stories of giants, seeing as the fur trade was there, the
Mhm.
fort was built, there were
Mhm.
people around, and just this one guy who had a lot of wine bottles around him saw these things. I don't know if they were that
I know,
true.
I kind of
I mean,
wonder,
the stories from the island, who
but
knows? But this guy's one particular story, it sounds like he might have had a few too many bottles of wine.
right. Well, you get into again. I'll say upstate New York. There's a
Oh yeah.
museum where they actually, they talk about the giants. The indigenous talk about wars
Mhm.
with the giants. So that they were around. I mean, God, just Afghanistan, just a few years ago, the military took one down. So like, this is crazy. And the
Not to,
people, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, not to mention, they have found their bones
Oh, thank the Smithsonian
many,
for
many
dumping them
times.
into the ocean.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
Smithsonian didn't know what to do with them
Hmm.
because they knew if they had said, yes, giants are real,
Hmm.
yes, David and Goliath is a true story, he was a
Changing the
giant
narrative.
and David took down a giant,
Hmm.
it rewrites their idea of a history.
It
It
does.
changes everything. It makes
Hmm.
stories that people thought were legends true, and
Hmm.
we can't
Hmm.
have that.
Hmm.
So they destroyed all these giant remains, and
Hmm.
they still find them to this day, but they disappear really quick.
Well, some of them are in mounds as well, so
Yep,
you
yep.
don't find them. But it's interesting when you say the story about giants being turned to stone, because what's been surfacing now are a lot of images of different stonework mountain ranges that really look
Look like,
like people.
yep. And was it Devil's Tower?
Mhm.
Some people say it's a tree stump.
Well, you know what? There's that's a whole other rabbit hole because
Oh,
they
I know.
talk about the earth having the tree of life. And back in the day, if we are going back to the time of giants,
Yeah.
bigger people, the bigger trees,
Yep.
that would have sustained the environment. And there was one guy who went to one of this, looked like a giant flat top mountain,
Hmm.
but it had rings in it.
Like a
And
tree.
yes, and he started just chipping away at some of it, and you could see it almost looked like petrified wood.
Yeah.
So I have to say, nothing surprises me anymore. I think that people are looking for answers out there, and they're going out of their way to find them. They're not just taking people's words anymore. They're going to go climb that mountain. They're going to go and have a look. Everyone's got a camera phone.
And
People are
that's the
taking
thing, is
photos.
all the secrets that people have tried to keep
Mhm.
for hundreds, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Oh,
Good
thousands.
luck
Yeah.
today. You
Oh,
can't
I
do it
know.
because, I mean, just a good example, New Jersey, right? The
Oh,
drones.
yeah.
How many videos have you seen
It's
from
everywhere.
amateur people who just pull out their phone?
It's
You
true.
can't say it didn't happen.
It's true.
You know, it's
I
something
know.
happened. You can't say what it is for sure, but you can say something definitely happened. There's way too many people, and it just, with everything, people
Yeah.
have got more access to information. Everybody's got a camera and a phone, like, right there. They can
Mhm.
document everything.
And that's the thing. People are, and there are stories being found. And I agree completely with Love 10. Thank you for joining us. They do cover these things back up.
Yep.
And when the powers that be get access, let's go to the Grand Canyon for a quick moment, where there are reports of like like Egyptian sort of artifacts and a
Hmm.
large Buddha inside. And people like, oh, that was just a hoax. Well, why is that area pretty much owned by NASA? Why are the
And
US
you're not allowed
military
to go there.
guarding? No, you'll be met by military.
Yep.
Why? Why? If there's
Yeah.
nothing if there's nowhere, there's nowhere else,
Oh, I
apparently.
went down a rabbit hole of mysteries
Uh,
in the national parks.
yes, exactly. Like,
It the
right?
the the paranormal investigator in me says I gotta get there and go look for it.
I know.
The human dad husband in me says you're never coming
Don't
home
do
to
it.
you.
Don't do it. No, no.
I'm hearing about all these boxes and these howls and these noises in the woods
Oh,
and what people
yeah.
have come across, and I'm like,
There's stuff there for
uh,
sure. So I'm just going to put up another picture because we're slowly
sure,
infringing on the time
oh
top of
sure,
the hour here. So
yep.
how about this guy? What is this guy? I mean,
Okay,
I
this
see
is a
what you're
little
looking at.
girl
Yes, right here.
sitting
Right
at the
there.
bottom of the stairs. She's just
Yeah,
sitting on a step.
yeah.
Like I say, not most, a handful of our ghosts are pretty mobile. They get around, they move all over the island.
Hmm.
We aren't sure which one of the little girls. We have about 3 or 4 little girls that roam around.
Wow.
We know it's not there's a little girl in Pine Cottage. She doesn't leave the building.
Oh,
So we know she stays put. And this one, we're not sure who it is. There's a
mm,
few it could be. But
yeah.
this is the only photo we have of this one, of her,
Right.
anything that looks like her.
Right.
But the story is this is Crow's Nest Trail, and it's a staircase that goes from the park down in front of the fort all the way up to the bluffs,
Mm-hmm.
about 150, 200 feet high, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
It could take you to the top. It's one of the best views on Mackinac Island is at near the top of the staircase.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people go up and down it. And there's been a soldier seen there, which we don't have a picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in full uniform and he has a handlebar mustache, the ones that curl around on the tips.
Yeah. Right.
He's been seen there. He's full bodied, interactive, talks to people
Mm-hmm.
type of apparition. The little girl follows people
Mm-hmm.
down the staircase. So
Wow.
if you're coming down the staircase, she'll be behind you. You won't know she's behind you. And you'll
Right.
be walking down the stairs. And if someone's coming from the other direction and happens to notice the little girl behind you,
Yeah.
by the time you meet up with them on the staircase, she disappears. And sometimes the person coming up the stairs will say, "Where's your daughter? Where's your granddaughter? I just
Mm.
saw her. Is she okay? Did she fall off the stairs?"
Mm-hmm.
And the person that's coming downstairs, like, "We don't have a daughter. We don't have a granddaughter. They're not here with us. Well, there's no little girl with us." They're like, "I swear there was a little girl coming down the stairs behind you."
Well, she's very, very defined. You
Oh
can
yeah, yeah,
really
you can see
see.
her. She's got legs. Her legs are the hardest part to see, but you can see that she's sitting on
Yeah,
one of
you
the
can see them.
steps.
You see her sitting. They're like right over
Yep.
here. This is pretty
Yeah.
ideal. Little
And that
ankle
that was one of
boots.
our tour.
Yeah.
That was a tour picture. So
Yeah. See,
we
I
we
love
were
it when
doing
they
the
send
tour.
in pictures. This is great. Okay, we've got another one here that I'm going to put up. 1 second. This looks like it would be a theater.
That's
So,
probably Mission Point. I know which one it is.
yeah,
That's
here we go.
Mission Point Theater.
Okay.
That is one of our shadow figures. This was on. We do a tour. We don't do them. Well, we did them a little bit last year. It's like a limited engagement type thing, where we doing tours with investigations embedded in it. And this was on one of those types of tours where we do investigations and we tell them stories, and then we move to
Hmm.
another location. They have a few minutes to investigate the location, and then we move. So we were in the theater on this one. We hadn't even started the investigation. Everybody was still walking in. We
Hmm.
hadn't shut all the lights out. We hadn't done anything. And people were, for some people, first time ever in this theater. If you
Hmm.
ever seen the movie Somewhere in Time,
Yes.
you know, when she's on stage professing her love to
Yeah.
Christopher, this is where they filmed that scene.
Wow. I did not
That's
know
the
that.
theater. And there's actually a plaque on the seat that he sat in for the
Wow.
so this is that
Wow.
theater on the island.
Beautiful.
And when everybody's walking in, of course, they're taking pictures, they're looking around.
Mhm.
It's not a spectacular theater, but it's just a unique theater. It's
It's
very
historical.
acoustically well made. The
Hmm.
acoustics in there are amazing, which makes
Hmm.
it really hard to do some ghost hunting, but still,
Yes.
you
And
hear the
it's
stage
still used
really
to this
well.
day, right?
Everything you hear on the stage. If you're in the
Right.
back, you don't hear it as well. But so
Yes.
everybody's taking pictures, and then one person takes a picture, and then and we weren't far away from them. They're like, there's nobody there, but they're on my camera, and then they show us the
Right.
camera, and we're looking, and then we're like, yeah, there's definitely something there, and
Yeah.
everybody starts taking pictures. It's not in any other pictures. So we did the tour. We finished the tour at the end of the night. Tour was done. Few of us go back into the theater. We try to recreate this thing.
Yeah.
We're like, is it a shadow? Is there anywhere we can stand on the balcony? You can see the balcony, like the shadow of the balcony rail
Right.
up that's coming down at like an angle. That's the balcony lights that are on.
Yeah.
We're like, is there a way we can cast a shadow? Is there any way we can stand there and look like that? We couldn't get that. We couldn't reproduce what looks like that. If it was a person standing there, even
Mhm.
if you throw a black like cloth over them, black
Mhm.
like tablecloth or anything, it
Mhm.
doesn't look like that. You could make too much of it was defined. You could see the angles, you could see the color
Mhm.
variations with shadows and with light. This
Mhm.
thing just was standing there, and no one could see it with their naked eye.
Wow. That's
So,
incredible.
and
That's
actually, I
incredible.
sometimes we did an episode with ghost hunters
Mhm.
way back in the day, and this is the photo I showed one of their production team to say, if you guys might want to come out and take a look at something,
Mhm.
I can't debunk this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And sometimes say that might be what brought him to the island was that
Well,
picture.
for that, so that was a narrative, right?
Mhm.
Debunking. So anything that they can try, which is great. This is wonderful. Okay, next, one second. There's two more here that I just want to share. Second, of course.
That last one, some people say it's Harvey, but I've seen Harvey's ghost twice. That's not what Harvey looks like.
Okay.
He's one of the famous ghosts out there. I talked about him last time.
You did, yeah. You
Yeah.
guys have to go back, catch the archive. It is up. Okay, this guy. Am I
Okay.
looking at something right here?
This
Yeah.
is the oldest known photo on Mackinac Island of an alleged ghost. And
Yeah.
yes, you saw it. You saw it right by
I
looking
did
at it.
right away. Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's great.
so I tried to find another photo I have of this, and I'll send it to you if I can find it. I have so many pictures, especially the historic ones.
Yeah, I
It's
love
like
it. This is very
I should
cool.
make a book of them, but they're all copyrighted by the state park, so I can't.
That's tough. Well, maybe if you split the proceeds, they would do it
Yeah,
with you, you
true.
know.
But
They
yeah, you
might.
saw the ghost right away in the
I
street.
did. Yeah.
So the trick is this one, a lot of people are just like, oh, it's a double exposure. Oh, it's just the kid moved. Oh, this, that. There's a lot of different things people will say that try to debunk it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
at first I was trying to do the same thing there. Everyone else
Sure.
tries to debunk it.
Yeah.
Their feet are in different positions. The coat's a different length.
Mm-hmm.
They're different height.
With different heights. Yes.
And if it's double exposure, every single person, including the dog that's standing in the picture right
Mm-hmm.
by him,
It would be double exposure.
would have some sort of double exposure with it.
Yeah.
There's just too many people, and they're doing too many casual things, and it's just not the type of situation where you would have it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I've also seen the actual negative, which is on glass. It's a
Mm-hmm.
glass negative.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the glass negative, so it wasn't somebody
So it's
did
not
it
made up.
and
It's
did it
not
again.
fudged.
It's
Yeah.
literally on the photograph.
Yes.
And the funny thing is we have a photo in the mirror maze, the maze of mirrors on the island, which is really,
Mm-hmm.
really close by to where this fit. This was on Main Street back in the
Mm-hmm.
1800s. We don't
Yes.
have the exact year, but we believe it was about 1882,
Crazy.
possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pointing to my phone. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
Force of habit. I'm used to doing presentations where I have a laser pointer and I point at things.
That's okay.
So not far away from where this kid is standing is the Maze of Mirrors. And
Mm-hmm.
we did an investigation in the Maze of Mirrors one time. The owner of the Maze of Mirrors, he passed away, God rest him, but he said there's something in my mirrors that haunts these mirrors no matter where they go. And
Mm-hmm.
he's moved the mirror maze several times. He said there is a woman who follows these mirrors. There's something to do with the mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
Every place he goes, people report a woman laying on the ground and there's nobody in there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's moaning. So he wanted us to do an investigation when he brought it to the island. It's still at the island. It's all still there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do the investigation and we're asking questions, doing an EVP session. And we're like, why are you here? Common question.
Mm-hmm.
We got an answer. And it is a woman's voice, very happy and very excited to say it's free. She doesn't have to pay. It's
Well,
free.
It's free.
You're a ghost, everything's
Everybody
free.
likes free for
Yeah,
sure.
and
So
if
that's
you're a ghost,
cool.
you just go where you want to go. It's free. So we got
Yeah,
a laugh out of it. We're like, yeah, this is true EVP. It does say it's free.
it's
And she's
free.
like happy about it.
I
But we
love it.
also didn't know we got this until later because you know how you take lots of pictures and sometimes you
Hmm.
don't really look at them.
Hmm.
After the investigation, maybe a few days later, we're going through some of the pictures and we see a picture, which we don't. I didn't send it to you because I couldn't find it. I know I have it, but I couldn't find
It's
it fast
okay.
enough to get it to you.
Yeah.
So it's a picture in the mirror maze of a kid, the same height, same type of jacket, walking through the mirror maze. And we
Right.
were the only ones in there, no kids with us. There was 3 adults, grown
Hmm.
adults, and nobody had overcoats on, long jackets.
Hmm.
And it's almost the exact same ghost that you saw in the last picture, but it's in the mirror maze and it's in a different position and
Hmm.
it's closer, but you can see him clear as a bell. It's
Hmm.
you can't see the face or anything, but you can see the silhouette. And
Yes.
it's a young boy or
Hmm.
girl, don't know. Think it's a boy, but could be a girl,
Hmm.
walking through the mirror maze. Right like 50
Crazy.
yards, not even maybe 50
Yeah.
yards tops away from
Hmm.
where that original photo was taken.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's what that
fascinating.
picture is. It's we don't know who it is. We don't know the story. We do
But
know
it's a
a
great
lot of
caption.
people. A
So
lot of people
cool.
have passed away on the island on numerous different things. So
I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine.
I
Here's the
mean,
last one, Grand
oh yeah.
Central.
So this proves the story that everybody sees. If they ever go to the island and you take the carriage tour, they'll tell you the cemetery is where the Grand Central is sitting, which is now housing.
Hmm.
It's no longer a hotel, and the
Wow.
cemetery was actually where we tell you it was,
There it is.
which is
Yeah, there it
across the
is.
street.
Yep.
That is St. Anne's original cemetery on the island. The original church that you saw in the picture with the guy with the rimmed hat.
Yes. This is where he was.
This is
No,
where the original church was, and they moved
got
it.
it.
And that
Okay.
is the
Okay.
church. That's a churchyard cemetery
Right.
versus, or what do they call them? Church burial ground
Yeah.
instead of a cemetery. There's a reason they call them cemetery and burial ground. There's
Hmm.
difference. So this is the churchyard burial ground.
Hmm.
And
Crazy.
you can see that there's still some tombstones there,
Hmm.
not many. But
Yeah.
what happened was St. Anne's Church was going into financial distress. They
Hmm.
needed help. They wanted to move the church because the cemetery had gotten too big for the area they were. And the person who owned the house that was right next door, she was one of the first female millionaires in the United States, Madeline Lafamboise.
Hmm.
She was a fur trader. Her husband was a fur trader. He died. He was murdered, and she took over the business, ran it better than he did, and made herself a millionaire. She saved the church from bankruptcy. This is where the church originally sat.
Hmm.
And once the church was moved, they filled in the rest of the property with burial, with graves.
Hmm.
And then they decided that tourism is kind of becoming a thing, and land is very valuable on this island.
Hmm.
And is there
Yes.
somewhere we can relocate the cemetery that would be kind of away from where all the tourists want to be?
Hmm.
So they moved it
Yeah.
to where it is now, which is kind of middle-ish in the
Yes.
island. It's kind of out of the way.
Hmm.
It's much more beautiful. I would rather be buried where it is now than where it is in this picture. But so they
Yes.
moved. They moved most of the bodies.
Oh, mm.
And there's the thing. They
That's the
moved
key.
most of the bodies. And I always tell people, you've seen the movie Poltergeist.
Yes.
You moved the headstones, but you didn't move the
You didn't
bodies.
move the
So
bodies.
we
It's the
know
same
there's at
old
least,
story.
yeah, there's at least 4 people that were never moved. We know
Wow.
that we have the names of the 4 that were never moved.
Hmm.
The way they did it is if you had a family member buried in the cemetery, you had to pay to have them reinterred in the new cemetery
Hmm.
and claim them. Well, not everybody was claimed. Some people may have
Wow.
passed away, generations, who knows.
Yes. Yes.
Moved away, didn't hear the news because back in the day, oh, I live in Texas. I'm not going to hear
Yeah.
news about someone, my great great grandmother who's buried on Mackinac Island. I'm not going to hear about it in the like 1840s,
No, it's
1830s. You're not
true.
going to hear about that.
No.
So, or
Mm-hmm.
that was later than that. It was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what year it was. They moved the cemetery off the top of my head, but it was way generations would have gone through.
Yeah. That's
So
crazy
a few of
though.
them got left behind, and of course, there's places that are above it now. There
Mm-hmm.
is apartment complex. There's a restaurant. There
Mm-hmm.
has some rooms that you can rent.
Mm-hmm.
There's an AT&T like
Yeah.
switch center.
Yes.
It's
It's
like a
crazy. That's
it's like an
crazy.
electronics thing,
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
people have reported strange things happening in Village Inn restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
particularly ladies' restroom, which may be a residual haunt, but it might also have something to do with the fact that you're standing on top of a burial ground and there's still
Mm-hmm.
people down there.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Hmm.
Wow. This is really awesome. It was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, and the pictures and the stories. Like I said, it's always in a place that was near and dear to me. So being able to, sort of get some of the inside stuff, and I mean, understanding the history and understanding why, it is how it is there. And yet it's just, I think many people come here without even giving a whole lot of thought to this incredible destination as to what the underlying history really is.
I mean, the majority of tourists come, they see bicycles, horses, and fudge.
Yeah, and fudge. It's got great fudge, though.
We have great fudge.
They
But
do.
that's what they see. They see everybody's on
Yes.
bikes. You can rent
Yes.
bikes. Everybody's smells like chocolate
Yeah.
and something else. Because with
Yes.
horses, you get a
Very
mix between
commercial.
chocolate and
Yeah.
horse poop. That's the smell
Yeah.
of the island.
Lots of
There's
it.
two
Yeah.
smells of the island: horse
Yeah.
poop and chocolate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're famous for the horses, the bicycles, no cars, and when people see the ambulance or the fire truck,
Hmm.
everybody's just like, "Oh my gosh, I thought they didn't have cars on the island." We're like, "Well, this is different.
The essentials,
Sometimes
of
we need them."
course. Yeah.
Um,
At the time, to show you how long ago since I've been,
mhm.
there were 3 vehicles only on that island.
Yep.
That was it.
Right
There wa
now, I've actually driven a car once on the
right.
island. I drove
Yeah.
it a block.
Yes.
It was a state. They have a state park pickup truck.
Oh, boy.
They have that one.
Yeah.
The police have expedition or an explorer. They
Right.
have fire truck. They have I think
Ambulance, I
they
think?
have they have an ambulance,
Yeah.
and I believe that they also have one other. I think the fire department and the police department. The fire department has a pickup truck. Police
Yes.
department has like an explorer or an expedition,
Yes.
and yeah, you'll see them if you really want to see one. Hang out on Market Street on a day.
Mhm.
You'll eventually see the fire truck come out or an ambulance come out. We have lots of bike accidents and heart attacks on the island. Unfortunately,
Right.
people
Yeah.
do strenuous activity when they haven't been doing,
Uh,
when you're trying to ride a bike up a hill that even an
mhm.
islander doesn't ride up. Yeah,
Yes.
you have
Yeah.
problems. Bike
It's
accidents.
always the tourists. It's always
Yeah.
the tourists. Well,
Yeah.
Todd, thank you. And
Hmm.
please stay in touch with me. Let me know, if you have
Yeah,
any
for
other
sure.
things
And
coming up. And
you're ever coming up to Michigan and you're coming up to the island, make sure to let me know. I'll give you a personal, like, show you it
well,
all.
thank you. I will. It's
Yeah.
really near and dear to me, and I definitely would love to do it sometime. And I'd definitely be, contacting you.
Sure thing.
So, so thank you, and hopefully we could do this again sometime. So let
Absolutely.
us know if there's,
Anytime.
yeah, we'll definitely see if there's something we can put together and bring you back, because it's just always so much fun, so much information, and photos were fantastic. So
Good.
thank you, and all the best. This upcoming new year and going into
Yep.
tour season.
Yeah, we have 4 months and then we're back to crazy times for us.
I
Sure.
love it. I'll avoid the
We open
crazy
up in
times.
early. We open up early May.
Yeah, I'll avoid the crazy times just because, I like to take my time and scope things out. So,
For sure.
but thank you, and
Mhm.
I'll be in touch.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Wow, everybody, this was a fantastic show. Bit of a rough start. Sorry about that. Not right sure what technology was doing, but glad we got through it. So, big thank you to Todd Clements for joining us and telling us all of these incredible stories and talking to us about his investigations. And once again, this amazing island, which is just, you really have to be there to experience it. When I say near and dear, I really mean near and dear. It is an amazing place. So next Wednesday night, we're bringing back Stephen Bissett, who is phenomenal. He's going to be catching us up on the whole UFO UAP disclosure going back to November. And it's going to be interesting because I really want to get his thoughts, not just so much on the drones, because I'm sure that's been overdone, but more so along the line of the Pentagon's making mention that they're not from around here. These are like extraterrestrial. And I was kind of like, okay. So really anxious to see what Stephen has to say about this because he is an advocate for all this and has been for a really long time. And Thursday, for the very first time, we have this really lovely, lovely lady coming on, Jessica Taylor. She's the author of a book called A Spiritual Awakening in Search for Hidden Jewels. It's a book she wrote after suffering a life threatening head injury, basically an NDE. And honestly, you guys are going to love her. She is just wonderful. And I mean, all our guests are wonderful, but she's really delightful. I mean, I've never met the woman and I just want to hug her. She's just so adorable. But anyway, really, really well versed. And this is an incredible story. So, in the meantime, have yourselves a wonderful weekend and take care of yourselves. It's a bit crazy out there. So, stay safe. And we shall see you next week. Good night, everyone.